Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? To all participants, the attendance form can be reached at the end of this program and the QR code will be shown through the screen. Also, each certificate will be sent to the registered participants by email. We will start the colloquium soon. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Yang berusaha, Dr. Asha Hasnimi binti Muhammad Hashim, the advisor to the International Sports Science and Physical Education Colloquium FSSH UTM program, as well as Sports Science Lecturer of the Faculty of Social Science and Humanities. Yang berusaha, Associate Professor Dr. Zainal Abidin bin Zainuddin, the invited speaker from Universiti Teknologi Malaysia. Yang berusaha, Assistant Professor Dr. Zayed Mohammad Altowerqi, the invited speaker from UMM University, Mecca, Saudi Arabia. Yang berusaha, Mr. Wadee Alkuhaili, the invited speaker from Taibah University, Madinah, Saudi Arabia. And Mr. Muhammad Hanif bin Mohammad, the Director of International Sports Science and Physical Education Colloquium FSSH UTM, distinguished lecturers from Universiti Teknologi Malaysia, AlQura University and Taibah University, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to extend my praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of His gratitude and blessings. Together, we can gather in this International Sports Science and Physical Education Colloquium FSSH UTM. Despite the fact that we face numerous challenges and problems throughout the year, such as the pandemic COVID-19, we appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We hope you will gain a lot of beneficial knowledge today from the activities we have planned for you, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome all of you to the International Sports Science and Physical Education Colloquium in collaboration with FSSH UTM, Alqura and Taibah. Before we go any further, let me introduce myself first. My name is Muhammad Azrinsha bin Azmi, and my co-host for today is Dr. Farid Alwi. Hello, Dr. Farid.
Hello.
So, Dr. Farid, I and Dr. Farid will be responsible for hosting this colloquium today.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. أحمد الله سبحانه وتعالى على أن قدر لنا أن نجتمع في ندوة العلوم الرياضية والتربية البدنية الدولية عبر منصة كلية العلوم الاجتماعية والإنسانية بالجامعة التكنولوجية الماليزية ماليزيا. مع أننا لا زلنا نعاني من انتشار جائحة كورونا وتحدياتها ومشاغل الحياة وصعوباتها، فقد استطعتم أن تمضوا قدما وتتركوا كل هذه الأشياء خلفكم وتتفرغوا لأجل المشاركة في هذه الندوة المباركة، وعسى أن يكتب الله لنا ولكم المنفعة فيما سيقدمه لنا الخبراء والحكماء في هذا المجال إن شاء الله. أحبتي الكرام، أهلا وسهلا بكم في ندوة العلوم الرياضية والتربية البدنية الدولية وفي رحاب كلية العلوم الاجتماعية والإنسانية بالجامعة التكنولوجية الماليزية المباركة بجوهر بارو ماليزيا، وبالتعاون مع جامعة القرى مكة المكرمة وجامعة طيبة المدينة المنورة بالمملكة العربية السعودية. معكم رئيس الجلسة الدكتور فريد عاوي والأستاذ محمد أزرينشاه بن عزمي في إدارة هذه الندوة العلمية المباركة.
Thank you, Dr. Farid. So to begin this program, we are pleased to have Professor Dr. Fatin Alia Pang binti Abdullah, Chair of School of Education, Faculty of Social Science and Humanities, to deliver the opening remarks.
فهيا بنا نبدأ.
Mr. Moderator.
ونفتتحها بسماع كلمة افتتاحية من رئيس قسم التربية بكلية العلوم الاجتماعية والإنسانية سعادة الأستاذة الدكتورة فاتن عليا فانغ بنت عبد الله الموقر، فلتتفضل مشكورة لتقدم كلمتها.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. To Dr. Asha Hasnimi binti Muhammad Hashim, our senior lecturer at the School of Education, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, UTM. Also the advisor to the International Sports Science and Physical Education Colloquium. To Associate Professor Dr. Zainal Abidin Zainuddin, our esteemed invited speakers from UTM, Johor, Malaysia. To Assistant Professor Dr. Zayed Mohammad Altowerqi, our invited speaker from AlQura University, Mecca, Saudi Arabia. To Mr. Wadee Alkuhaili, our invited speaker from Altowerqi University, Madinah, Saudi Arabia. And also to Mr. Muhammad bin Mohammad, the Director of the International Sports Science and Physical Education Colloquium, UTM. To all our distinguished lecturers from UTM, from AlQura Universities, Taibah Universities, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you and welcome to the International Sports Science and Physical Education Colloquium 2022. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Before I begin, I would like to thank all of you, all of the attendees, our distinguished speakers, invited speakers, lecturers, students, and especially the committee members who have been working days and nights to make this event a success. Congratulations and thank you to all of you who have been here today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my honor to be able to attend this event with you. I think this is the first colloquium. I don't wish this to be the last one. I think this colloquium has been giving a lot of opportunities to lecturers and students in sports science to collaborate, to share ideas, to learn from each other in sports sciences, health education, curriculum, and physical education. So I see this program as a very good program for students to work together, to know each other, and this is an opportunity for all of you, especially our students, to get the international experience, to learn from our friends from Saudi Arabia and maybe the other friends from different countries today. If you have the chance to learn from each other, to be able to speak and learn the languages, the cultures from different areas, this is one of the experience that UTM can bring you, because UTM really look into outbound, inbound programs. I hope you, our students from UTM especially, will take this opportunity seriously, make friends, learn, and create opportunities to work together with everyone from anywhere in the world. And so I hope this program will bring forth new ideas, new innovation, new experience, even new research results and new knowledge in developing quality education and affordable education for all, especially in sports education. And finally, I hope that this program can be held annually. That's why I said this is not the first. This will not be the last one, inshallah. And we can keep doing this every year. With our friends from AlQura University and Taibah University, and maybe more universities, inshallah, in the next coming years from different countries, so that we can keep on sharing, keep on learning from each other, and strengthen this area of research. So with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I hereby officiate the International Sports Science and Physical Education Colloquium FSSH UTM 2022. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Fatin Aliapang binti Abdullah, for those wonderful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, now the most exciting time has arrived. Let us continue our program with a presentation session with our invited speakers. As a soft reminder, the presentation's time given to the speaker is 15 minutes. Questions and answer sessions will be held in the end of the session.
نقدم جزيل الشكر لسعادة الأستاذة الدكتورة فاتن عالية فانغ بنت عبد الله على هذه الكلمات الرائعة. وأيضا هي في ملخص الكلام الجميل عبارة عن أنها ترحب بالسادة الحاضرين والضيوف الكرام وتستفيد من هذه الندوة المباركة إن شاء الله تعالى. والآن حان الوقت لكي نذهب إلى المناقشة والعرض التقديمي لهذه الندوة العلمية المباركة.
Before the presentations begins, allow us to introduce our first speaker. He is Associate Professor Dr. Zainal Abidin bin Zainuddin, and he is the Associate Professor from Universiti Teknologi Malaysia. His field of interest and expertise in exercise physiology towards muscle soreness and damage, sport massage, therapeutic exercise, and sports injuries. He had wide experience teaching in sports science and physical education, research methodology, and sports science. He also had been awarded bronze medal in Innovation and Technology Expo INATEX 2013 and silver medal in Malaysia Technology Expo MTE 2013.
أيها الحضور الكرام، لقد حان الوقت الذي طال انتظاره وهو جلسة العرض والذي سيناقش خبراء هذه الندوة، ومدة العرض التقديمي لكل متحدث حوالي 15 دقيقة، وسيكون هناك فقرة الأسئلة والأجوبة قبل ختام الندوة. والآن أدعو المتحدث الأول سعادة الأستاذ الدكتور المشارك زين العابدين بن زين الدين، أستاذ قسم التربية بكلية العلوم الاجتماعية والإنسانية بالجامعة التكنولوجية الماليزية، ومتخصص في علوم الصحة الرياضية، وقد حصل على العديد من الجوائز في هذا المجال. وعنوان مناقشته هو عندما نتقدم في العمر. أدعو من سعادة الأستاذ المشارك الدكتور زين العابدين بن زين الدين ليقدم ورقته في 15 دقيقة، فليتفضل مشكورا.
Without further ado, I would like to welcome Associate Professor Dr. Zainal Abidin bin Zainuddin to deliver the presentations with the title As We Grow Older. Seems really interesting, right? All right, Dr. Zainal, the floor is yours.
تفضل دكتور زينال.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you guys hear me? That will be the first questions.
Yes, Doctor. Very clear.
Can I share this? How do I share that? All right. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for having me for this session. First of all, my topic going to be an easy topic because everybody experience this thing. Everybody know about being old, right? So now can you see my my slide, Mr. Moderator? Should I go on? Should I go on, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Doctor. Carry on. The floor
you
is
can
yours
see
now.
my slide.
Yes, very clear.
All right. Okay, now I have to go quick because I only have 15 minutes. So as the picture shows here, so we can see that everybody is actually having this experience. So most of you probably on the middle picture, because I must say probably I'm heading to the very last picture. So everybody is going at this process. We cannot stop this process. So everybody is going older and older and older. But the thing is, people always looking at the different side. People always looking at the greener side. So we always think that another field is greener. But the thing is, it is not always greener, because when you grow up, when you become a kid, and you would like to grow up faster. So when you become a youngster, you would like to be an adult. Once you are an adult, you want to be an older and wiser. But once you're getting old, then you start to see where should I go? I want to go young. And then when you're young, you want to go younger. So everybody is looking for the greener place, greener field. But the thing is, not not every grass on the other side is greener. So the grass that green is the grass that you water that. So I will come to that point to the very last slide of my presentation, why I will say that we need to water the green so that it's become greener on our side. Okay, so as a general overview, people around the world are getting older and older. So people are getting chances to live longer. That is probably because of the better technology, better environment, better health activity, and so on. So it's a fact that everybody in the world is getting live longer. It was expected from the data, it was stated that by 2030, 1 in 6 people in the world is actually 60 years and older, 60 years or over. So 1 of 6. So can you imagine how many older people will be around? By 2050, it will say that the population of the age 60 years and old will be double the number that we have here. So it's a matter of fact, the longer the time, as this time go by, we will find that there are many older people live around. So this would be in the future. In the very near future, everybody, not to say everybody, but the number of the old population will be more compared to the younger population. So the pace of these populations grow up is faster than the other pace in the past. So they're getting older faster. Not to say they're getting older faster, but the thing is, you will find that in one sections or 1 year ahead, there will be a lot of older peoples around, and so that is the fact. But to know what happened to the elderly people, there will be 2 types of aging. So the first one will be the aging on the cells. So the cell will be aging because as we grow up, the cell will be depleted. It has to be changed. It has to be replaced with another better cell to make the system better. So you cannot avoid that. There is a changes in cell. So these changes in cells involve the natural selections about the tissue damage. So they will be replaced for a new one. So as times go by, you will be getting older or you become aging because of this fact, the cells effect. All right, and then when the cells become older, your body also become weaker or probably less in terms of strength and the bulky. Right, so if you can see the picture here from the baby, and then we grow up until we become old. So the structure of our body also become different. It's look different. The structure will be different. Apart from cells, so the physical will be different, and then at the end of the day, both gender will be end up with the bending structure like this. So everybody's going to be like this if they're able to grow older. And then it's actually affected by the environment and also the situation, what's happened during their lifetime. Perhaps if I can give to the not a simple example, when the grown up or when the elder people move to the retirement process. So when they start to work, they finish work, and then after that they jump into the retirement process. So the life will be different. The lifestyle will be different. So it's actually trigger or accelerate the pace to become old. So we can choose to become old faster, or I will explain to you later in this session how we probably can reduce the pace to become older, right? So this is the common picture, common situation that I always see around when you see the old people, the old folks, when they have like problem with their health, you think that is normal. But believe me, it shouldn't be normal, because the elders also should live healthily. Okay, so this is probably the common chronic conditions among the elders, right? They always have the hypertension, always have the high cholesterol, arthritis, heart failure, depression. So this is common among the old population. But yet we still have the measures to change this. Probably we can change that to become the healthy and all the folks that live healthily. I probably can share my experience when I went to Japan, when I went to Tokyo, and then most of the peoples over there, they are old. And then perhaps, in fact, my team that walked together with me on the sidewalks, the person is actually 80 years old, and then he can walk faster than me. So probably we can find solution how to make this common chronic condition become uncommon in years ahead, right? Okay, this is the factors that probably involving the healthy aging. Because the older people is also important. They contribute a lot in the life. They contribute a lot in terms of their experiences and perhaps the solution that they found during their life. So probably they can contribute to give the better solution to the younger people. So we cannot put aside the older people because they are actually contributes to the world, right? But older people health is either come from genetic, and that's the one that we can't avoid, but it's only 10%. But the most it actually come from the physical and social environment. So this is the part where we can play our role. So we can ask, we can introduce the physical activity and also social activity to the older people, so that they can become health, right? So because the physical and social environment is actually affect the health directly or through the either negative part or the positive part, with either barriers or incentive in the life. All right, and then the behavior of the older people as they want to move to the phase where we consider old. So if we do have the exercise and probably we practice the good healthy living, it can reduce the risk of the non-communicable disease, right? This is will explained by Dr. Zayed in his presentation later about the non-communicable disease. So we can avoid that by having a good lifestyle during our adulthood, right? So it can improve the physical and mental capacity, and also it will delay the care dependency. So we don't have to depend to others to take care about our life. So that will be factors in the healthy aging, right? So another part that probably can contribute to the healthy aging is the diet or the activity, or refrain from all the negative lifestyle. And also we need the good supportive from the environment and also the government and so on. So this is actually contributes to the healthy living among the aging. So when they start to go for the when individuals start to enter the phase of the aging, so this is the common effect of the aging. So we do have the eyes, the ears, mouth, and so on. So this is all the parts where actually affected as we grow older. But the one that probably I will look into and probably related to the this webinar is about the musculoskeletal system. So no doubt, if we grows older, there will be lacking in the musculoskeletal system. So the musculoskeletal system is involving the muscles, the skeletons, the joints. So they work together in order for us to create a movement. So we start to move with the musculoskeletal system. So when the musculoskeletal system affected by aging, so it will make our life at the that stage will not be a happy life. So we need to find ways how to reduce the effect on the musculoskeletal system. So it will have a very big challenge when we deal with the elderly population. That is because of the physical and mental capacity. If we don't have the chance to develop them from their adulthood, probably when we meet them, they are already in the physical disadvantage. So when the physical disadvantage, they probably affect the mental capacity as well. And then also the diversity in all the age is not random, because we can always have the consensus that all the elder in the group are having this same common symptoms of aging. And also we do have the common assumption, because if you look at the older generation, we look at the elderly people, we always say, oh, this is elder people, of course they don't have the strength, of course they don't have the bulky muscle, and so on. So this is the common assumption. And then also the developments of the technology and the globalization is actually affecting the aging population. So it's either they make the aging population pace go faster, or probably if we look at that in the positive way, it probably is slowing down the pace of getting older, right? So as we know that the effects of aging is no secret at all, because we just can simply see people's grown up and become old, and it's only we can differentiate whether that one is obvious or it is non-obvious, or whether the effects of aging is good for those people or bad for them. Is either they can go slowly or we can cure them, or how we can either delay or accelerate the pace of aging. And then it will be very good if we able to have a spirit, a young spirit inside the elderly body, right? So if we old, but our spirit, our movement, our visions, our ears is still in the having the young structure. So we do. It will be very good if we can have the young spirit in the elderly population. So this is what I mentioned just now. When you talk about the aging, is actually will involve the cells and the organ. All right, and then from there we can see that the other side, two top is the cells and organ that we cannot get rid of that. But the other parts, this is the bones and joint, the muscles and body fat. Sarcopenia is the situation where your muscle become smaller, and then the muscle strength, the loss of muscle mass, and also about the reducing of the fiber size. So this one we actually can play around with that, so we can make that become slower. The changes become slower. So if we can able to make these changes become slower, there's no doubt we actually also slowing down the aging of cells and the aging of the organ too, right? So as we grow older, and if we don't look into our properly into our health and well-being, probably these are the common problems when we get older. These the first one, when you can see the picture on the light blue picture, light blue photo. So that is the structure of the body. So the structure of the body, you probably lean forward a little bit. So your body become not strong in terms of the muscle that hold the trunk of the body. So your body become lean a little bit front. So when you lean to the little bit front, your center of gravity will be changing, and then it will affect the structure or the position that you stand, the stand of your movement, and also the walking and the running, and also the lifestyle, any activity in your life. So it will affect. And then when it's affect, probably this is what happened. You will go into the situation you off balance and you cannot control yourself. Finally, you fell off, right? So the top right picture is probably one of the example if you're having this trip and fall. So what I want to talk my gist of the talk today is the trip and fall. So the trip and fall is common among the elderly, but these are the activity that we can do probably to reduce the incidence of the trip and fall. So we need to move a lot. So we need to move every part of our body. So that will reduce the pace, the fast pace of aging, and then avoid sedentary lifestyle. Do a lot of stretching, and you will allow to go for the weight training, and then you have to go for the daily activity. You need to go for the daily activity. This is how to maintain the muscle strength. The first one is the resistant exercise. So the older people, the elder people, if they go for the resistant exercise, they still can develop their muscle strength. So even though the size is no more bulky, but the strength is still there. So you can do the resistance training in order for you to maintain the muscle strength. And then the second photo, the second picture showing that the regular activity. So at that age, at the elderly age, the older age, you probably need to socialize. So you can do exercise by socializing. So when you go into the social meeting, you still go on the exercise, maintain the exercise, so that will help to maintain the muscle strength. So the top right picture is actually what you do when you become sick, right? So you always think that when you become sick, you need to lie down, bedridden, and so on. But the thing is, if you keep doing that, it accelerates the pace of to become it's getting more older. So even though you're sick, you should move around and try to avoid the rest too long on the bed while you're having sort of like sickness. So there are some studies to show, this is some of the studies that to show how exercise actually can improve the quality of life among the elderly people. So the first one, the study by Pritz, it shows that the improvement in insulin sensitivity when you do the exercise. And then I go faster. So it showed that the moderate activity is actually giving the effect of the increase of the mitochondria. Even though they said that it's faster in young individual, it still have a room for the elder to become better during the exercise. And then when you have a problem with the skeletal muscles, so these are probably the side effect that you can experience later. So aging also affecting the locomotor. So the locomotor, when you deal with the movement, so it affects the joints and also the bones, right? So it will affect the direct posture. And then when you become 65 years or older, you start to develop the bunions or subluxation. So bunions is the development at the joints. Same goes like subluxation when you have like not a strong joints. So of course you will lose the muscle bulk, and then one that is probably not good at the older age, when you have less precision and you don't have a very good timing in doing the activity. So all the activity that you wanted to do, if the aging affect the joint, it will probably not at what you want them to be, right? The other one from the picture you can see, it is about the balance. So when you grow older, the balance become slower, become lower. So you cannot maintain the balance. So when the balance is not good, and then you start to experience the trip and fall situation. So it will affect the daily living activity as well. So you will not enjoy the life at the elder age if you don't have the strength, the smooth movement at the joints, and also when you don't have balance. Okay, so this is what you try to avoid. So the treatment is actually exercise. So you need to go for the exercise, the weight training, you will allow to go for the weight training, but don't go for like this picture. If you want to go for the very huge weight, probably you go for the small weights, and then maybe you can involve into the dancing activity at the older age, and focus on the flexibility, and also try to maintain the balance to become better and better, right? So this is the example to show that the resistant activity can be done at the older age, and also it can develop your muscles too. The first photo on the top left is the person who involved in weightlifting, and she is actually 100 years old. So meaning that you can maintain the exercise, but don't simply go doing those exercise when you are old. So you has to start earlier, not to start that to the very later stage. Also, if you're able to have the good strength and muscle at the older age, so you can avoid the slip, trip, and stumble fall in your life, right? So can exercise and physical activity help? So that is the gist of the presentation. So these are the articles that I reviewed, and then all these articles showing the very good example, or the very good contributions of the exercise and physical activity in terms of reducing the effect of aging when you're getting old. So with that, I would say we should exercise earlier. I would say that you should watering your plants earlier. This is related to the green activity that I showed you earlier. So water your plants early so that it can grow better and better during the elder stage. So thank you very much, and I'm looking for the question at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you for the information and interesting talk, Dr. Zainal. I hope we can take the benefits from the presentations, as we know that all of us will become older, right? At least we have the informations here. And now it's
نشكر
time for our next speaker from Taibah University, Saudi Arabia. He is Mr. Wadee Alkuhaili. He is a former postgrad student in University Teknologi Malaysia and currently a PhD candidate in Taibah University in Madinah. His field of interest and expertise in sports psychology. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Wadee to present his topic. He will talk on the importance of psychology for sports practitioners.
نشكر المتحدث الأول سعادة الأستاذ الدكتور زين العابدين بن زين الدين الذي أتعفنا بمعلومات قيمة عن مرحلة الشيخوخة. والآن نذهب إلى عرض المتحدث الثاني سعادة الأستاذ وديع الكحيلي، طالب دكتوراه من جامعة طيبة بالمدينة المنورة المملكة العربية السعودية، وخريج الجامعة التكنولوجية الماليزية في مرحلة الماجستير. وعنوان مناقشته هو أهمية علم النفس لممارسي الرياضة. أدعو سعادة الأستاذ وديع الكحيلي ليقدم ورقته في 15 دقيقة، فليتفضل مشكورا.
I'm a lecturer in Taipei University. Today I'm gonna present my topic, which is about sports psychology. As you know, sports psychology is a wide subject, but I need to give you a brief idea about the subject and the importance of the subject for the sport participant. As you can see, my outline of this presentation will cover all of these topics briefly to give you a big picture of the field. Otherwise, each of this topic and subtopics need many hours of study. starting by definition of sport psychology, enhancing health and well-being, learning about participants, understand the sport environment, and studying the group process, improving and also studying about improving performance. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Wadee, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay, let's continue with that. Sport psychology is a scientific study of people and their behavior in the context of sport and exercise, and the practical applications of this knowledge. Most of people studying sport and exercise psychology with two objectives in their mind. First, understand how psychology factors affect an individual's physical performance. Example of that: does lack of self-confidence influence the children's ability to learn swimming? Second, to understand how participation in sport and exercise affects the personal psychology development, health, and well-being. The example of that: does participate in daily physical education classes improve children's self-esteem? And the sport psychologists serve three primary rules in their professional activities, like conducting research, teaching, and consultation. There are two types of specialized in sports psychology. First, clinic sports psychologists. They have extensive training in psychology, and they detect and treat individuals with emotional disorder, such severe depression, suicide attempt. They are licensed, so they have to work. The second specialist is educational sport psychology specialist. They have exercise in sport and exercise science, physical education, kinesiology, and they understand the psychology of the human movement. They are mental coach who educate athletes who educate athletes about the psychological skills and their performance. Second, the sports psychologists different in how they view the successful interpretation of the sports psychology. They may choose from many orientation to the field. For example, psychophysiology orientation, they believe that the best way to study behavior would examine the process of the brain and their influence in physical education. Second, social psychology orientation, focusing on the behavior is determined by interaction between the environment and the people. Third, the cognitive behavior orientation assume that behavior is determined by both environment and cognition. Now we start the topics of the sports psychology. The first, enhancing health and well-being. Exercise has been shown to be related to reducing the negative emotional status, such as anxiety, depression, especially when the exercise is regular. People follow programs to get the benefit of exercise, like weight control, reducing the stress and the depression, increasing self-esteem, and increasing the enjoyment. But the problem is when the people drop out the exercise due to the lack of time, lack of energy, and lack of motivation. Learning about the participant, and the example questions are: how does participate in psychology makeup information can influence the performance action of the athletes. There are many examples of studying this type of people by studying personality, motivation, and anxiety and stress. Example of personality refer to the blend of circumstance that makes individual unique. So studying personality help professional working better with student, athletes, patients, and the people who exercise. Motivation is defined as a direction and intensity of effort. The direction of effort, meaning the individual seek out or is attracted with a certain situation. The intensity of effort refers to how much effort a person can put in a specific situation. Anxiety is a negative emotional status which feel of nervousness, worried, and fear. And after that, we're gonna move to the study of physical and sport and exercise environment. The example of the questions: what effort do competition and cooperation have in the behavior of a human, and how the feedback and reinforcement affect the learning and performance? Of course, competition is a social process that occurs when reward is given to the people based on their performance, comparing to the performance of the other people who do the same task and participate in the same event. The quality of leadership determines whether the competition will be positive or negative experience for the participant. We know that cooperative teamwork benefits the sport performance, but also the sport can lead to cooperative team workout. Example of that there is sport programs who provide opportunity to learn important life skills. One of these skills is cooperation. And benefit of the feedback are motivate and instruction. Motivational feedback attempt to facilitate the performance by enhancing confidence of athletes and create a positive mood. Instructional feedback is providing information about the specific behavior that should be performed. Reinforcement using the reward and punishment that increase or decrease the chance of similar response occur in the future. We move to the next slide. We move to the next slide, which is studying the slide which is studying the group process. How do the group interact? Leadership, communication, and communication affecting performance in a physical education in the physical education field. The group structure depends on interact between its membership. two most important characteristics of groups. First, group rules, which is the rules of each person in the group. Second, the group norms, which is the norms or the level of the performance, pattern of behavior and beliefs of the groups. And group cohesion is the process reflect the groups tend to stick together while following the goals or the objectives. There is two cognitive, which is task cognitive, which is related to working together as a team to achieve goals, where social cohesion related to the interpersonal attracting among the team member. Leadership. Leaders know where the groups need to go and provide the direction and the resource to help them to be there. Communication. The effective communication, both verbally and non-verbally, is essential for a positive interaction and can affect the team cohesion. The next. We'll talk about the improvement of performance. So improvement of the performance, in what the example of that, in what way can we use psychological techniques to help people perform more efficiency? Psychological skills training refer to the mental training for the purpose of enhancing performance. There is a lot of example of that, which is arousal regulation, imaging, and self-confidence. Arousal regulation, you need to be aware of you need to be aware of the cause of anxiety and how you respond to the event to control the arousal level. Imaging refer to creating and recreating the experience in your mind, a form of simulation. And self-confidence defined as a belief that you can successfully perform a desired behavior. A member of strategy can help building self-confidence, focusing on performance instead of outcome. Now we can talk about the goal setting. The goals are objective or aims of the action. We need to focus attention and provide direction. After that, the concentration is focusing on task in the environment, maintaining the focusing over time, and being aware of change situation. In conclusion, people participate in sports to decline the psychological issue such as stress and anxiety and depression that caused by working and life difficulty, while athletes lower the competition anxiety and stress to increase their performance. Hopefully, I give you the whole picture of this presentation. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much for the great information given, Mr. Wadee. May the talk will be beneficial towards the audience, especially for athletes, coaches, and all the sports practitioners. And now, it's time for our last invited speakers from Al-Qura University, Mecca, Saudi Arabia. For your information, he is the Assistant Professor Dr. Zayed Mohammad Altowerqi. He is a former postgrad PhD student in Universiti Teknologi, Malaysia. His expertise and interest in his research fields is epidemiology studies, epidemiological statistics, descriptive studies, and cross-sectional studies. He will represent physiological and health conditions of former athletes. With all due respect, we are pleased to have you deliver your presentations. You are welcome to give a few words, Doctor.
والآن نذهب إلى عرض المتحدث الثالث والأخير سعادة الأستاذ المساعد الدكتور زايد محمد الطويرقي، أستاذ بجامعة القرى بمكة المكرمة المملكة العربية السعودية، ومتخصص في الدراسات الوبائية، وخريج الجامعة التكنولوجية الماليزية. وعنوان مناقشته هو الظروف الفسيولوجية والصحة للرياضيين السابقين. لذا أدعو سعادة الأستاذ المساعد الدكتور زايد محمد الطويرقي ليقدم ورقته في 15 دقيقة، فليتفضل مشكورا. وقبل ذلك أشكر المتحدث الثاني سعادة الأستاذ وديع الكحيلي، طالب الدكتوراه من جامعة المدينة من جامعة طيبة بالمدينة المنورة، الذي أنار لنا بأفكار نيرة عن موضوع أهمية علم النفس لممارسي الرياضة. فأطلب من سعادة الأستاذ البروفيسور أن يقدم ورقته، فليتفضل مشكورا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I hope the voice is clear. And
yes, the voice is very clear today.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And I want to make sure the PowerPoint is clear and you can see that. Can you see that? The PowerPoint?
Not yet, Doctor.
Okay.
Maybe you can try again. All right.
Okay.
It's very clear. Yeah, تفضل.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, it is my pleasure to be with you in this colloquium, and it's a very warm greeting from Mecca to you all, inshallah. In this presentation, I'm going to present my PhD proposal, our PhD thesis. I hope it will be a benefit for most of you, and maybe they will open a window for future research, inshallah. My topic is, as I mentioned before, is the physiological and health conditions of former athletes. In the presentation, we try to measure the prevalence of metabolic syndrome and uric acid and physical activity among former athletes in Saudi Arabia. My honor is Dr. Prof. Zainal. He was my supervisor, and alhamdulillah, I get my PhD from alhamdulillah Allah, and because of Prof. Zainal. In the presentation, I'm going to talk about the statement of the problem, the significance of the research gap, and the aim of and objective of the research. Also, I'm going to talk about the research methodology, and also we will look at the result and discussion of the thesis, and also the conclusion. Before we start talking about the topic, as you can see from the picture, those are player and footballer, and they were fit and healthy when they were playing football. However, after they stop playing football, they becoming obese, and they had some health problem. This was the motivation for the PhD study, and I was one of the formal athletes. After when I stopped playing and participating in sport, I had gained some weight, and maybe this is one of the health problem after detraining. Metabolic syndrome is a public health concern, and they are increasing worldwide. Also, the uric acid play a significant role in the setting of metabolic syndrome. Athletes who are participating in physical activity, they are lower prevalence of several diseases such as type diabetes. However, detraining leads to decline in some physiological variables, for example, in the strength and endurance of athletes. In Saudi Arabia, we had many health problems, for example, heart diseases, and they are causing by low physical activity and obesity and high blood pressure. Also consuming unhealthy diet and high fasting blood glucose. They were the result of low physical activity and diet, and they lead to many heart diseases. There is a recent study showed that the Saudi military were 40% of the Saudi military were overweight. However, 28% were obese, and around 42% had central obesity. This is a necessity to understand and know and to compare the prevalence of metabolic syndrome and its risk factors among factors obesity and uric acid between formal athletes and the general population. Statement of the problem: the prevalence of metabolic syndrome has been increased among general population in Saudi Arabia. For example, the prevalence of metabolic syndrome in 2016 was around 28%. However, after 2 years, in 2018, the prevalence was around 39%. However, the best of author knowledge, there is no study discuss metabolic syndrome, obesity, and uric acid among formal athletes. So the significance of the research is to train the disease among formal athletes, also to curb the prevalence of metabolic syndrome, its risk factors, obesity, and uric acid among general population. We want to try to clear picture on the health of formal athletes in Saudi Arabia, also to help the health ministry and the stock holder to help them in setting strategy for prevention and controlling the risk of metabolic syndrome and its risk factors, obesity, and uric acid. When we look to the literature, we found that few data on the prevalence of metabolic syndrome in Saudi Arabia. Study in metabolic syndrome in formal athletes are lacking. So no many study around the world is looking at the prevalence of metabolic syndrome and its risk factors among formal athletes. Most of the measurements have been performed by participants, so this is what was one of the problem and the gap of the previous study. Therefore, it is very important to gain a better understanding in metabolic syndrome in formal athletes by carrying out more study outside of Europe and USA, because most of the study was conducting in Europe and USA. So among Saudi Arabia and Arab people, there was no study. The aim of the study was to determine the prevalence of metabolic syndrome and its individual risk factors, overweight, obesity, and uric acid among formal athletes. Also to compare between the prevalence of metabolic syndrome and the mean of metabolic syndrome among formal athletes and general population. Also, the other aim to compare between the group of formal athletes who were playing, for example, power or mixed sport or endurance sport. Research methodology, the research was consists of physical measurements, laboratory analysis, and survey. The research employed descriptive, comparative, and correlation study. A proposal sample was used for this study. Participants, there were 75 formal athletes who were over 20, between 26 to 60 years, and also we for the other group, the non-athletes were 26. They were all in voluntary basis, and they participate in this study. The research delimitation international athletes. So we talk the international athletes. We don't look at the local athletes. Athletes participate in 3 state competition also. So if we don't find international, we try to find at least 3 state competition they were participating in. The type of sport were mixed sport, power sport, and endurance. The physical measurements were weight, height, and waist size. The medical health were blood pressure, fasting blood glucose, uric acid, and blood lipid. Those are the scope of the study. Those are the participants when we were taking the measurement. So before we take the measurement, we evaluate the eligibility of formal athletes. As I mentioned, they have to be international or at least 3 state competition they participate. We gave them a letter, describe the study and what they are going to do. Then we demographic and information and physical activity habit were taking. Also, physiological and biochemical measurement were taken from the participant. As you see from the picture, we try to describe, then we take the measurement from participant. The measurement, we use blood pressure measurement, blood sample. We talk HDL and triglyceride, fasting blood glucose, and uric acid. Body measurement, waist size, weight, height, and body mass index. Physical activity, we use the standard questionnaire for measurement physical activity, which are the International Physical Activity Questionnaires, IPAC. Statistical, we use SPSS for analyze the study data. The result, we found that 52% of the formal athlete had metabolic syndrome, and the highest of individual metabolic syndrome risk factors were fasting blood glucose. So over 60% of the participants were having fasting blood glucose, whereas the majority of formal athletes had low high density lipoprotein. Our study, in line with similar study conducted in Europe, for example, Lian found that around 50% had metabolic syndrome. Batista and Soares, 50% had metabolic syndrome, and Imam in Iran found that over 53% of the participants were having metabolic syndrome. The current funding report a higher prevalence of low high density lipoprotein, high fasting glucose, high blood pressure level than Batista and Soares. High waist size and triglyceride were lower than the study by Batista and Soares were conducted in Europe. We found that environmental factors such as weather condition, fast food consumption, and inappropriate lifestyle behavior such as low physical activity lead to the high prevalence of metabolic syndrome. When we compare when we look to the prevalence of metabolic syndrome, we found that formal athletes had a higher level of metabolic syndrome. And also for fasting blood glucose, formal athlete had a higher level of fasting blood glucose, and also had higher level of low high density lipoprotein. However, when we compare between the mean of individual risk factors, for example, the waist size, we found that formal athletes, although they had high level of metabolic syndrome, they had low size of waist size. They had around 93 centimeters, whereas non-athletes had 97. So when we compare between the mean, we found that formal athletes, although they had high prevalence, but they are better in the mean. Also for the low high density lipoprotein, we found also high density lipoprotein higher than the non-athletes. So in this slide, we can see that formal athletes had better mean than non-athletes when we compare the mean of individual risk factors of metabolic syndrome. Formal athletes had higher prevalence of metabolic syndrome. There is inconsistency could be related to the lifestyle of formal athletes is in Europe, who had adopted a healthier lifestyle than non-athletes. When we compare our result with the result of other study in Europe, the waist size are similar to the study by Batista. Formal athletes had higher waist size than non-athletes. High fasting blood glucose, high blood pressure, high triglyceride, and low high density lipoprotein, and consist with the result of Batista and Soros, which showed that formal athletes had lower prevalence than non-athletes. Formal athletes had higher prevalence of uric acid than non-athletes in our result. The last one, we compare between the formal athletes group. We found that the prevalence of metabolic syndrome and its individual risk factors most higher in mixed sport. People in endurance sport, they had lower of metabolic syndrome. Also, most of the individual risk factors of metabolic syndrome. Also, when we compare between the mean of metabolic syndrome risk factors, we found that endurance and mixed sport had better mean than power sport and non-athletes. This is maybe because they are participate in aerobic training. So this is the result of aerobic training. So the mean are lower than power and non-athletes. Formal mixed sport, highest prevalence of metabolic syndrome. Endurance athlete had the lowest prevalence of metabolic syndrome. Our study consists with the study in Europe in metabolic syndrome. Formal mixed sport athletes also had the highest prevalence of uric acid compared to the formal of endurance and power sport. The high prevalence of metabolic syndrome factors and uric acid level among formal mixed sport athletes may be because of the high prevalence of obesity and consuming fast food, as high body mass index and fast food consuming are associated with increasing prevalence of metabolic syndrome and its risk factors and high uric acid. Result and discussion summary of the funding. We found that more than 50% of formal athletes having metabolic syndrome. Formal athletes have higher prevalence of metabolic syndrome than non-athletes. Mixed sport formal athletes had highest prevalence of metabolic syndrome than endurance, power, and non-athletes. The conclusion, strength of the study. This study provides direction of the policy and clinical practice and future research for Saudi population. The blood sample were taken and all measurements were taken by the research. Limitation, the small sample size and the time limit due to COVID-19 lead to small size of the participant. Information on leisure time, physical activity, and dietary habits were self-report. Also, this type of study was very costly for conducting and for traveling around to do this research. Recommendation for future research: long study needed to follow the health of formal athletes. Also examine the individual who have participated in adequate amount of physical activity. So we found to look at the people who obese and participate in physical activity, and to compare it with the people who are obese and non-participate in physical activity. Similar research needed in male in different consent and also in different country to compare the prevalence and to compare the health of formal athletes between the male. Contribution establish new data. So this is one of the study, is a new study. So future research will start from this study. Also, we try to find new variables. We insert the uric acid and also the physical activity to see the effect of these variables in the study. Of course, this study, a big study, it was 5 aims of the study, but we tried, because we have 15 minutes, so I tried to cut some of the aims to limit the time. So we found from one of the aim, people who are obese, they have high prevalence of metabolic syndrome. So when we try to load the body mass index, all the variables are clear, so no people having metabolic syndrome. So there is a relationship between high body mass index and metabolic syndrome. Thank you very much, Terima kasih, and I hope this presentation is very useful for you, and thank you for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Zayed Mohammad Altowerqi, for the amazing presentations. May all of the informations presented will be beneficial to all of the audience, inshallah.
Inshallah. Any question?
Now we come to the question and answer sessions. And to all the audience, you can write your question in the chat box, and don't forget to write the questions along with the speaker's name, whom you want to ask.
نشكر المتحدث الثالث والأخير سعادة الأستاذ المساعد الدكتور زايد محمد طويرقي، أستاذ بجامعة القرى بمكة المكرمة المملكة العربية السعودية، الذي أغدق علينا بأفكار نيرة عن موضوع الظروف الفسيولوجية والصحية للرياضيين السابقين. أتمنى من الحضور الكرام أنه قد تم إعداد الأسئلة كي نناقش في هذه الجلسة. والآن حان فقرة الأسئلة والأجوبة، فأرجو من الذين سيقومون بطرح الأسئلة كتابة الأسئلة في صندوق المناقشة، ثم بعد ذلك ذكر اسم المتحدث الذي سيوجه إليه الأسئلة. فليتفضل مشكور.
Okay. This time we have one question from Izzuddin Roslan. Izzuddin Roslan asks, besides consuming calcium, what are the other type of food that we can consume to strengthen our bone? Right. So Izzuddin Roslan asked the questions. So who's the panel that want to answer these questions? I think Dr. Zainal, would you please answer these questions?
All right. Thank you for the question. Very interesting question. You can hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can. Very
All
clear.
right. Okay. It is very true that calcium is the things that we need to develop the bones. But calcium only is not enough. you have to have the other ingredients to make the bones better. But the problem is the thing that we want to have for the bone development is a byproduct. What I say byproduct means that we cannot just get that particular ingredients alone. You have to eat something else, and then from there it can provide you with the other ingredient that which is good for health. Like when you're having a milk, that's not meant totally with calcium, but they also have the iron inside this. They also have the zinc inside that. So that's where you need to develop the bones. And then apart from food, I would say exercise and movements of the bone is very important, because when you start to move, there will be a connection between the bones, the tendons, and also the joints. So the more you move the muscles, because they will pull the bones is either towards or forward, they will help in strengthen the bone as well. So don't just focusing on food, but it has to go apart from food. So food, which is part of it is calcium, and the other one is the byproduct that we can get from other healthy food like the milk, the dates, and the fruits. And then apart from that, you need to go for the exercise. So you have to move the bones at the joints, because the connections between the bones and the tendons and the ligaments and joints will help strengthen the bones. I hope I can fit you with the information.
Thank you, Dr. Zainal, for your answers. So for shorts, other else than food, we can strengthen the bones by doing exercise, right, Doctor?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would always try to capture what was written many times in the books. It will say that if you can encapsulate the exercise into a pill, that will be the best pill in the world. If we can
Yeah.
encapsulate the exercise into a pill, that will be the best
Yeah.
pill in the world.
Yeah. Someone says exercise is medicine, right?
Right, exactly.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Zainal, for the very good answers. And then now, anyone has any other questions? I'm sure all the panelists will be pleased to answer them. This we got one question here from Leah. The question is, does the sudden death related to healthy lifestyles? It seems recently few of former athletes die while performing physical activities. So I think this questions is quite related to your field, yeah, Dr. Zainal.
All right.
So
Okay.
uh,
The problem that we see now is because when it's happened, and then the one that highlighted to us is only the sport person and the healthy person. But at the same time, there's this there are thousands sudden death that happen to non-active person. So because of that effect, because that sudden death happened to the person that well known, so we can see that, oh, this is because of their involved in sport. But the thing is, probably there is only 1 or 2%, or maybe less than 1% of the sudden death that happen throughout the world. So others is actually on the non participants. There's not a sport healthy lifestyle. So relating the sudden death to the healthy lifestyle probably is not a good connection. So we don't see that, right? But we have to know that the probably what is the actual situation that commit to the sudden death, we do not know. But we know one thing: when the sudden death happen, it's actually related to the electrical impulse that will pass through the heart. So it is involved with the electrical impulse. So the electrical will stop suddenly. So the electrical impulse will stop suddenly. So we're not able to help the heart to pump. So the major contribution is the electrical impulse. So what makes the electrical impulse stop? There will be many factors. So relating the sport and health activity into the sudden death would be not a very good perspective. We don't just put the connection between the healthy lifestyle and the sudden death, because the percent probably a very small percent.
All right, Dr. Zainal, thank you for the answers. I think there's I read some sentence that said that sometimes the correlation does not imply causation, right? Is it applicable to this question? I
Yes,
think.
exactly.
All right.
Because we want to find the correlation, we need to know whether that one is true or not, and then we try to find the correlation.
Yeah, I agree with you. So thank you very much, Doctor, for your time. And then we come to the next question. If has don't forget to write the questions along with the speaker's name that you want to ask, so that will be easier for me to assist the questions towards the panel. So there's a question. One question here from Nurul Najiha, and the question is for Mr. Wadee. How to improve mental health by psychological training? Okay, Mr. Wadee, welcome to for your answers.
Yes, is good questions, and I would like to answer that. Like there is, you have to train your mind as you train your body. So to improve the mental health, you have to make a training. Example of this training is the example of the training is to do the meditation, for example, and also is mental training by relaxing, imaging like the moment. For example, you have to create an image in your mind from back experience, and you share this image in meaningful status. Then you share all of your senses in this image, and also you can raise your self-confidence by doing some exercise, and by focusing on your performance instead of focusing on the outcome. For example, some people care more about the outcome. For this reason, they can't perform well. So you need to shift the focusing of your mind from the result to the improving the performance. This one way. The other things is you have to aware of the what causing the anxiety, what caused the anxiety for you, so you can detect this event. So and you have to know that you respond about this, how you respond to the anxiety. So when you aware of this action, you can control yourself, and by doing meditation and by exercising and bringing some imaging to your mind, and you imagine the situation, but sometimes you imagine the situation in a positive way, so you can shift your concentrate from the bad outcome to the good outcome. I think this is the some strategy they can use. There is a lot of strategy. So you can contact the, some specialized in this. They can help you and give you more strategy to increase the mental health, and more training about the psychological mental health. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wadee, for the answers. And psychological factor is very important, right, to improve the performance and etc. So I think maybe the answers will be beneficial towards the audience and the one who asked, and especially for the athletes, coaches, and the sports practitioners. Thank you, Mr. Wadee, for the answers. All right, maybe we can choose one or two. We can pick one or two questions more. Maybe for Dr. Zayed. Maybe let's take a look. All right. There's one question here from Suraya Ramli. She asks, I want to ask Dr. Zayed, if former athletes wants to participate again in specific sports such as running, what type of exercise do you suggest in the early phase of their training? Dr. Zayed?
Yes. Thank you for the questions. Actually, we for formal athletes, we usually recommend moderate physical activity such as walking. So don't push yourself for running if you are not doing exercise for a long time. So walking is best physical activity. Also, some weight training in moderate weight. This is, I think, is the best way to start or return to physical activity and running. And also try to participate in physical activity at least 5 days a week. So the fitness will increase and you can run after that. I hope this is answer your questions.
Right. Right. Very clear answers. Thank you, Dr. Zaid, for the answers. So we start with the moderate activity and then we progressive overload the exercise. Right, Dr. Zaid? Is it true?
Yes, true.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Right. So I think we can pick one last questions. We come to our last sessions for question and answer from you all. Maybe one last questions we got one questions from Amirul Afiq. Why during competitions athlete performance tends to increase at second minute compared to first minute after the game start? This question for Dr. Zaid. Oh, Dr. Zaid. Dr. Zaid, could you please to answer them?
I will pass the question to Prof. Zainal. I think this is related to the energy system. Yes, Prof?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, maybe Dr. Zaid or Dr. Zainal can answer because both in the
I can't speak on Prof. Zainal there.
Okay, maybe Dr. Zainal. Maybe Dr. Zainal.
All right. Okay. Very interesting question. Very interesting question. Why during competition athlete performance tend to increase at second minutes compared to the first minute? That is why when this is true. This is true. But we can reduce this lag by having a very good warming up. So that is what the warming up are for, because you warm up your body before you engage into the real situation. So because when your body is not ready to perform, so you will perform in your you will consider you do that underperformance. So perhaps because Amirul Afiq was asking about the minute 1 and the minute 2, there could be the influences of the timing that he take after the warming up. So should be the best. The ideal one is the warming up, straight after warming up, before the body temperature is going down. You jump into the exercise or the actual performance. Then it could be maintaining, right? But some situation when you do the warming up and you take a longer time for you to go into the game, right? So maybe the temperature is going down already. So you know that when you are very fit, the time taken to reduce or to back to the normal or recovery stage is very short. That is when you are very fit. So if you are very fit and then you do the warming up before the exercise, after that you take a rest. Let's say your rest is up to 3 minutes. So the 3 minutes is the time for the replenishment of the ATP and so on. So when you want to jump and again, so you have to develop the temperature or the system back to normal in a taking time. That's why it's always take minute after the actual situation. So the best way to deal with that is got you got good warming up and then try to maintain the body temperature and the recovery system not to the very last before you jump into the actual game. So that's what I can give.
Oh, it's like turning back time into the exercise physiology class, right? Yeah, it's very good to refresh back the knowledge that we learned. So I think that that's all for the questions and answer sessions. And I think this, thank you again, Professor Dr. Zainal Abidin and Professor Dr. Zayed and Mr. Wadee for answering all those questions and for the great presentations. And it was pleasure to have you with us. So this concludes the webinar. So everything that has a beginning must have an end. So we come to the end of this International Sports Science and Physical Education Colloquium FS session UTM. And we would like to say thank you to all for attending. And again, thank you to all the invited speakers for the informative and very interesting talk. And we hope the presentations will be beneficial for everybody and you enjoy these presentations. I would like also like to express my gratitude to Dr. Farid Alwi for serving as my co-host Arabic translator for today. And thank you for the attentions. With that, I end with the wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And before I forget, all the attendees are requested to stay for a while for photography session and attendance like in. Right?
Okay.
We took some photo first.
أوكي، ختاما فلكل بداية نهاية، ولقد وصلنا إلى نهاية جلسة ندوة العلوم الرياضية والتربية البدنية الدولية عبر منصة كلية العلوم الاجتماعية والإنسانية بالجامعة التكنولوجية الماليزية ماليزيا لعام 2022، وبالتعاون مع جامعة القرى مكة المكرمة وجامعة طيبة المدينة المنورة بالمملكة العربية السعودية التي قام بتنظيمها وتنسيقها طلاب السنة الرابعة قسم العلوم الرياضية. وأقدم باقة شكر وجزيل عرفان للخبراء المتحدثين الكرماء على تقديمهم مناقشة علمية شيقة ومفيدة وقيمة، وكذلك أقدم امتناني لأحبتي الحضور الكريم. وأختم هذه الندوة العلمية الدولية بكلمة وبالله التوفيق والهداية والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. وفي ندوة علمية دولية أخرى إن شاء الله. نطلب من سعادة الحضور الكرام الانتظار لحظة لالتقاط الصور والحضور.
So, thank you, Dr. Farid, and all the attendees are requested to stay for a while. We have photography sessions, and come up to photography session for a while. Okay, all right. So ready? One. Just wait a minute. Set up a bit.
Dr. Zayed is not here.
Okay. Oh, Professor Zayed is not here. Maybe he lost his connections. We wait for a while for him to come back. Alhamdulillah. So this is for your information. There is the AJK committee for our International Sports Science and Physical Educations. So Dr. Zayed.